This is the Executive Cabinet Member meeting where decisions are made on land and property, regulatory services and licensing, contracting, procurement and social value. And welcome everybody to the meeting. I've got probably got some new people on today, or people covering. So mostly if you need to say anything, raise your hand. And if you think I've not seen the yellow hand, please just speak into the microphone. I don't want anybody missed or anything like that. So the first item we've got on the agenda this new year is we've got a monitoring report of decisions. And it's for me to mostly just note this monitoring report and also to thank officers, democratic services officers and the main officers for keeping this up to date, and just to see if anybody on the meeting with me wants to ask any questions about any item. There's still a good number on there, or make any comments at all. Not presently. And just a reminder for everybody that I've had some time off due to ill health. I did send out to you yesterday the words that are likely to find their way as an update around the communications that are going on, particularly with the ward around the Prestoley Community Centre, and just the clarity on what has and hasn't happened over that period of time, and to recognise that I'm extremely grateful for all the hard work that goes on in the corporate property. It's a huge area of the council with a lot of work going on there at the moment, which is excellent. Okay, so we can move on to the main decision paper today. And everybody's had their papers, and this is, I'm going to hand over to officers. This is a decision-making document to make a decision on land at Alderbank Close in Kersley. I just want to check who wants to do the introduction to the paper, please, if you want to indicate for me.
I'm quite happy to do it if you want, in my capacity as Assistant Director for Corporate Property.
Thank you so much. Much appreciated. Yeah.
So thank you, Councillor Howarth. This is a property that's been in the system for a while. It was identified back in, I think it was January of 2022 to dispose as part of the Strategic Asset Management Plan Phase 6, I think it was. There were 9 assets which were approved at the time for disposal. So we've been working our way through the disposal programme over the last couple of years. The site is now ready for disposal to a preferred purchaser. The registered landlord, registered provider, Bolton at Home, have indicated that they are sort of the best organisation to take on this property. And we are seeking approval today to dispose of the property for what is less than best consideration, monetary value for the property. The scheme that is proposed by Bolton at Home is for 27 houses of 2 to 3 bedrooms each. The scheme is 50% affordable, 50% social housing. And it's been through a robust sort of decision-making process, and they are the preferred provider. The valuation at the time came in at, for open market valuation was 685,000, but by the time the sort of residual valuation of the site has been done, the best consideration for the property has been as £100,000. So that is something obviously we've had to sort of reflect in the report today. The social need for housing in the Bolton Borough is significant. It's a brownfield site, and it gives us opportunity, obviously, to obviously repurpose an existing site that obviously has become vacant. It's an opportunity to create some much needed social housing, and we're happy to support this in working with Bolton at Home through our Bolton Community Housing Partners as well. So it's something that quite a lot of work's been going on in the background over the last few months, and something we're looking to try and get support today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let me just check. Is there anyone who wants to raise any questions with officers about anything? Let me have a look. Paul, please.
Yes.
Councillor Sanders, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Sue. Yeah, so a couple of questions. And should I go through each one and then obviously Justin may be able to answer them?
Yeah.
So in the report, it does say that in December 2020, 16 sites, including Old Bank, were identified by the council for housing only. It was agreed at that time that the disposal would go to Bolton at Home, I think, on each of these 16 sites. I suppose the question I've got in terms of them 16 sites, can you advise what the land sales or disposals were to Bolton at Home in them cases? In terms of percentage, I suppose the disposal price against the market value price, because obviously in this instance, the 585,000, and we're dropping it to 100,000, it's probably, if the maths is correct, probably about a 15% receipt. So it's just, how does this particular case compare with the other sites that we've got in this bundle of 16 from 2022, I believe it was. So that's question one. Thank you, Chair.
Let's do that one. Now, I'll just see if an officer wants to say anything, but I'll be naughty and say that there may well be questions today that, officers don't have the full answers to. So I think, obviously, if not, you will be given, or everybody can be given the answers in a more fuller form if that should be needed. I want to say that because that's fair to officers. Does anybody want to say anything at all?
I can't quote specific. Sorry, Councillor.
Yeah. No, go on, Justin, and then Paul Whittingham is going to help us with the view as well.
Yeah, I was just going to say I can't. Maybe Paul can add more depth to this answer, but there's a requirement, obviously, that we do maintain and monitor any sort of subsidy that's given to registered providers in terms of making an allowance for the social value. So we've done our checks, and I think there's a cap of sort of £2 million over a 3-year period, and we are well below that with Bolton at Home. I think we've done 1 or 2 deals with them over the last year or so, the last couple of years, but nothing of any sort of significant reduction in value. But I can, if Paul wants to pick up on that, then that'll probably help.
Yes, Paul. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. Just a little bit of history around this site as well. So this site was originally going to be brought forward through public sector partnerships, and that partnership arrangement. It was identified that Bolton at Home and PSP would try and bring this site forward. Again, we're going to technical details, but the land can't be positively drained, which places a significant constraint on the site and creates significant adverse ground conditions for the site. So the site could not be brought forward through public sector partnerships, and that's when, because Bolton at Home were already involved in and brought forward a plan and paid for a planning application back then, that they had the knowledge and the ability to bring this site forward. Certainly from I was aware back when that report was done, that there was the consideration back then was nil consideration, and I think the change to now is that that Justin's actually secured a £100,000 contribution rather than a nil valuation. So this site remains difficult to bring forward because of the ground conditions and because of the need to create positive drainage, which is a constraint on the site. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. So I'm grateful. What we've got there is a reminder that if we were to go back to the 16 that were signed off well before I was an ECM, it's a good question from Paul, but the detail of it wouldn't have found its way into this decision-making document. I'm sure of that. But you know, comparing to the other 16, what's happened. But what this discussion shows is that you can't just do comparison across, because there are differences, and that's just shown itself there. And a reminder that those who've read all the documents, it is mentioned, isn't it? The PSP issue, what's happened where that couldn't go forward, does find its way into the valuation report. Some of the history is in there. Now, what I have made decisions where we've had sold at undervalue, but it's not been down to 15%, as Paul Sanders has said today. It's been probably at 40% level. You're right. And I think we can provide you with something, Paul, to show the differences in the undervalue amount that's gone on across some of those other land sale decisions that have occurred. Those that have occurred. We can provide you with that, I think. Now you've got other questions, or you might want to come back on that.
Yeah, so that information would be useful. And again, like you say, Chair, to compare different sites isn't a perfect science, is it? But I think it's always the sense, obviously, as a local council, we want to make sure that as the duty we're giving to our residents in our localities, especially Kersley in this case, we want to make sure there's that the best possible return, financial as well as community, is considered. The second question, and again, it goes back to, I suppose, a piece of the puzzle that Paul's just mentioned. When Alder Bank closed, the day centre closed, the building obviously was demolished. The site has been cleared. What was the cost implication for the council to do the demolition and preparedness of the site? If we've got that detail, and again, it's probably a piece of information that we could look at out of this.
And again, through you, Chair, I've certainly gone back through all my records, and if you go onto Google Maps, you can see the history of the site, and this was way before, you know, even back to I think the only picture of it being there was 2008, and we certainly don't have any records of what the cost of demolition was.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. Any other questions, Paul Sanders? Sorry, I'll say full names.
And I suppose the last question for the time being, in terms of the proposed access that would be opened up to the bowling clubhouse, obviously the council intends to demolish and rebuild and bring the clubhouse into a wider community use. The demolition and rebuild of said clubhouse in the last 12 to 18 months, what is the progress that's been made on a planning application? When do you feel that will be sort of publicly shared? Because I think there's obviously aligning of two projects here, isn't there? We want to redevelop the Alder Bank site as well as get the bowling hut up to purpose, but at the same time they've got to align. If we haven't obviously done our planning and delivery feasibility, that will be an issue. So any information Paul could provide on that would be greatly appreciated.
Yeah, Paul Whittingham, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, I've indicated to the ward members that that this is the first step in the process, that we need to get approval to dispose. Then we can work with Bolton at Home. We've already had conversations with Bolton at Home. They had engaged Seddons going back probably 12 months to bring forward the planning application and bring forward the development of Alder Bank. So we've had conversations with Seddons about the ability to deliver the redevelopment of the bowling hut and for that to become a community asset. So we've had those discussions, but we weren't able to progress those until this decision was made. I'll work alongside Justin and ensure that the planning application for the development via Bolton at Home will encompass the planning application for the bowling hut, and that we will work with the developer that Bolton at Home chooses to allow the development of the bowling hut, and that avoids the cost of creating a separate access round the site, because there is not the easiest way to redevelop the bowling hut is to take a temporary access through the site. That access will be removed once the bowling hut is created, but it does take away the cost, in the region of £50,000 to create a separate access to deliver the redevelopment of the bowling hut, which could put the delivery of the bowling hut, which is a district centre priority, out of the funding gap.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Paul Sanders.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just to come back on that, and I appreciate Paul giving a little bit of the background there. I suppose not to contradict Paul, but to look at the chronology. In March of 2024, so I think it was about, let's say, 9 months ago, Bolton at Home did put the application in for these 27 houses into Bolton Planning Department. Once that was deposited, Falmouth and Kerrs, the first party, obviously looked at it, were really interested in seeing what the detail was. It was noted that Bolton at Home at that time, in their documentation, what they submitted said that they owned the site already. So obviously we raised a flag just to say, well, has this land been sold? What's going on here? Then obviously several months have passed. We've had time to correct that, and obviously have the land revalued. I think the idea that we as a council have a priority to redevelop the bowling hut, we know from 2020 roughly that we were going into a partnership with Bolton at Home to redevelop this site. I think to say that we are waiting for this to be approved today in order to progress our side of the bargain kind of doesn't feel right to me. I think there has been plenty of time for the council to have been planning for the rebuild and the recommissioning, demolition, obviously, of the clubhouse. I suppose that's not a question, it's more a point that I'd want to make. So yeah, I think that there has been time, and I can appreciate that once this does progress, that will happen with ward members in terms of the next phase. But yeah, I think an opportunity has probably been missed, knowing that we had the agreement with Bolton at Home going way back to 2020 that this site was going to be brought forward by them, not underplaying the site issues that Paul has said about the water and the flooding issues that have to be overcome. But yeah, I just wanted to make that point. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I know there are other officers who are going to come in. I just want to say that I'm grateful that you understand that in everything we do, there is a level of error sometimes, and you've acknowledged that there was likely an error in that planning application. It was an error where if it said obviously that a sale had happened, and I just accept that sometimes error will occur, and so I think we've got anybody. No, there isn't a hand up. So the other thing I want to recognise, of course, is you've mentioned from 2020. Oh, there are hands up now. Okay. And they just weren't showing on here. And of course, that's across a couple of administrations, that timeline. So Paul, do you want to come back, and then Justin, please?
Yeah, it's just, thank you, Chair. It was just to reassure members that this is a district centre priority, and we want to deliver the bowling hut, but we have a budget to stick to, and the intention was always to work with Bolton at Home, work with Seddon Homes to actually get this delivered as in effect a social value project by Seddon Homes, and to try and negotiate that, which would reduce the cost of building. So, that we wouldn't, we'd be looking for whichever developer Bolton at Home choose to work with them to. We wouldn't be looking, as we would normally do on a construction project, to pay profit levels of 15%, for example. We'd be looking to reduce the cost of delivery and work with them to achieve, in effect, a social value delivery of this site and the bowling hut. And that is one of the key reasons why there's been a delay, because Seddon Homes, weren't able to progress the detail until this decision was made. So happy to then crack on with this and to get it implemented as quickly as possible, because that is what we're being asked to do by the local ward members.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chair.
Yes, Justin Clough, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And just to answer Councillor Sanders' question about why we haven't sort of, again, sort of been going, putting applications together and sort of doing the due diligence up front and sort of, all that sort of, it costs time and resource, and it's obviously to do anything speculatively on such a development obviously would could be sort of wasted in terms of if we don't sort of obviously get the scheme right. So we have ring fenced an allocation towards this bowling hut. We don't have finite resource. Obviously, we can only sort of spend money as and when we're sort of certain that it's going to sort of pay off. So effectively, trying to sort of do something speculatively at this before this point would obviously wouldn't have necessarily been a prudent allocation of public resource. So yes, ideally we'd get it all sort of set up in advance, but we can't do that. And as Paul was saying, obviously, until we've sort of secured the sale, we've got our preferred partner, we know who the developer is, we know what the scheme is going to be, we can then sort of work around that and plan it. Obviously, we've got, hopefully if we get the decision, we can then sort of actually then action that as well. But to sort of speculatively pay for reports, for surveys, for architects drawings, etc., obviously would have not been a particularly good use of public resource beforehand.
Thank you very much. So just as I go to the decision, it's a reminder for the public who have an interest in some of these meetings that they watch on social media. So there's been a valuation report prepared that's got quite a lot of detail in it as to what the money value is on the land plot, and also commentary on the way that we also value it, because there's a section in the decision document then, so you have two documents to look at, that a whole section, 3 pages, that talks about how we create value, social value, shifted across from that monetary value, if you like, and about the government law that's been around that's allowed councils to do this for some time. Councils are able to move that money value into social value, environmental value, or economic value, and grateful for members who read that and understand that, and the way that the government law allows us to sell at undervalue based on those principles. And that's what this document is about. This document is about us being able to use social value, and we've clarified that this decision is about providing 50% of these homes are affordable, 50% of these homes are social housing. And the other important matter that's presented in the decision paper, grateful that officers have done this document, it makes it clear that it means that we spend less on what we are required to do in terms of statutory housing at this council. If we are going into business and working well with social housing providers and landlords like this, then I think it's clear in the document that also the council has a requirement to spend money on housing people, and that's definitely part of this decision. So the decision is this today. I'm going to approve the disposal of council-owned land at less than best consideration to Bolton Community Homes, registered provider, and authorise the Director of Corporate Resources to negotiate and finalise commercial negotiations and documentation. consider that the purpose for which the land is to be disposed of at less than best consideration is likely to contribute to the promotion or improvement of social well-being of the areas as set out in this report and the General Disposal Consent England 2003. That's the law I was referring to. And I'm also authorising the Borough Solicitor to complete all the necessary legal formalities and documentation. So thanks very much, everybody, for your attendance today. Paul, do you want to? Paul Sanders, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I really appreciate the contributions by officers in answering my questions. And this certainly isn't an attempt to delay the process at all. Of course, we want to progress the redevelopment of the site, and then, as Paul and Justin have said, the plans for the clubhouse, the bowling club. But I am minded to call this item in today. I think it would be worthwhile just to do some more exploration, scrutiny of the disposals that we have spoke about in terms of what has gone on with them 16 other sites. Again, I know they can't be compared perfectly, but I think it would give an indication. And the other thing, I suppose, is again, in terms of the ward of Kersley, all of the assets that have been disposed of now, there isn't much left. I think this is just one that we couldn't just let pass without just making sure that we're getting as much as we can for the residents of Kersley and the taxpayers of Kersley. When I look at a similar site just into Farnworth South, former Harrowby's day centre, that was disposed of by the council, £525,000, and an application has just gone in for 22 affordable homes to be built on that. Of course, the land, the issues, the flooding issues aren't there, but again, that shows a greater return. I think to dip below the 15% against the market value just feels that we just need to look at this one more time and then progress from there. So thank you, Chair.
Okay.
And I'm assuming that this would go to the corporate property, the corporate scrutiny meeting.
I'm just going to say something. I'm just going to say something first, Ian, if you don't mind.
Okay. Yeah.
Actually, with respect, the first person this goes to is the monitoring officer, because whilst opposition members have got the right to call in, because that's how the council constitution is set up, all the governance goes for a check with the monitoring officer. So actually, you'll get the notification about cogency of calling and so on. And whilst I might have views, I won't, necessarily share them today. I think there is a right to call in, but that is checked off by the monitoring officer. So sorry to interrupt you, Ian.
Oh, it's fine, Councillor. Sorry, Councillor Sanders. Can you just clarify you are calling it in, because earlier on you said you minded to. Just to clarify for the record that you're calling this.
Yeah, I'll confirm that I've called the item in.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, I've called it in. Thank you, Ian. Thank you.
It is right. It will go to a future meeting of corporate scrutiny committee, where property matters go to. Yeah.
Yeah. Once it's signed off as cogent for calling and so on. Yes, of course. Thank you. It'll go to that scrutiny committee. Okay. If there's nobody else, nobody's got the hand raised or wanting to say anything, so we can bring the meeting to a close today.
Okay. I'll just stop the recording.
Thank you, Chair.